What's going on, guys? Salty Pogue here, and today we're taking a crawl, walk, run approach with the short series I'm working on in regards to land navigation. We're taking a deep dive specifically into the tools you'll be utilizing to accurately negotiate the map to include considerable factors when determining which tools to utilize when situations call. My goal today is to build your confidence with the tools necessary in order to guide your team to victory. So, let's discuss the star of the show, the map. As a whole, it's relatively overwhelming, especially since you can't see yourself on the map as an individual icon to gain your bearings. So to make things easier, let's break down the map to its individual components to better ascertain critical information in order to get our bearings. The map is broken down into individual grid squares numerically designated along an XY axis. Starting from the bottom left of the map, coordinates are read starting from left to right for your x-axis, and then from bottom to top for your y-axis. It's important to note, whenever in Arma or real life, when reading out a map coordinates, always read them in the XY format. I'm sure some of you come to realize, but since 1.3 there's a few new additions to your orange map marker. Most notably of which includes a dynamic grid coordinate that changes in relation to your chosen grid square, along with the elevation in relation to sea level. In my personal opinion, I'm not much a fan of this new feature as it takes away from the spirit of, here's the tools, figure it the fuck out yourself. On the other hand, given this information, those that may be unfamiliar to cartography as a whole, or just unfamiliar with the topographical map, a 6-digit grid coordinate means absolutely fuck all. So, before we start bringing out all our moving pieces and our nice toys, let's discuss the static features of the map that will always remain constant. This yellow symbol on the map indicates your spawn point as well as your time of day of spawn. This is important for you newer guys trying to meet up with your buddies. Stop focusing on shit moving around the map, all blinking icons and shit. This will be your answer from now on when asked, where did you spawn? Getting from point A to point B often requires the utilization of roads, and being able to identify them will be able to give you an idea as to where you are, where you want to go, and how to get there in the most efficient way. These chonky boys that can be seen from space evidently is your MSR. No matter where you go, vast majority of the time for longer expeditions you will eventually utilize these roads. Understanding their direct paths will help you determine route efficiency from north to south, as well as the junctional point connecting eastern and western points. While the primary benefit of these paths of travel is a streamlined route, there are hotspots for contention, whether it be helicopters looking to disrupt supply lines or ambush points. You're likely to encounter unforeseen circumstances to negotiate around at some point. Zooming into the map, we can see an intertwining mess of smaller yellow lines. We can see the MSR as a highway of sorts. It makes sense that the smaller lines would be our conventional roads. These are obviously our dirt roads on the map. While a little slower to get places, they offer more concealment most of the time, giving validity to its vast network across Everon. These dotted lines are hiking trails. They're easy to miss even on foot, but if you're lost and find one, know it will either lead you to a main junctional point, or some of Arma's more aesthetic places, giving you a good reference point to regain your bearings from. The screen icon with stacked boxes indicates your supply point. Unlimited supplies will continuously generate here, making these valuable assets. Only things to note here are the fact that FIA will continuously spawn over time here. So for the new supply runners out there, in addition to having to eliminate the initial 8 to 12 FIA to safely get your supplies, they'll regularly spawn in a couple at a time every 20 minutes or so. So before you decide you're going to have unlimited mortars from here, make sure you're bringing a radio and either some buddies or some AI following you to protect you. You can as well see various power lines in rural areas, which will bring you to either power stations or metropolitan areas. And the rest of the symbols on the map are relatively self-explanatory. I'm not going to sit here and insult your intelligence with trivial shit like what could possibly be at the lighthouse symbol. Can you guys guess what's at the gas pump symbol and what you can do there? Objectives will always have two names to them. The thin text name will always be the actual name of the city, which can be found at all entry and exit roads for you to get your bearings from. The thicker names are the objective code names. These are the recommended names to refer to them by in most situations, with the US code names being named after states and the Russian code names being named after, well, random shit. What's important to understand is that these code names will change game by game, so Point Arizona won't always be Coastal Base Shotain, but Coastal Base Shotain will always remain Coastal Base Shotain. And just to quickly cover for those that don't already know, blue bases are US controlled, red is Russian controlled, green bases are still FIA or AI controlled, and these yellow symbols represent bases outside of your radio range. Alright, so these are the absolute bare minimum basics I'm going to go over in terms of identifying map and terrain features for this specific video. Don't worry, I'll be going over absolutely everything over time. Once again, this specific video is to build up the confidence of our newer players to embark on their own adventures and not have to be restricted to passenger princesses for the sake of hopefully making it to the fight. Alright, now let's bust out the toys. The protractor is going to be your one-size-fits-all tool in terms of ascertaining all critical information you can get on the map. This protractor model in Arma serves two key roles, determining bearing and distance. While this specific model is relatively simplistic, those two functions are the core of all land navigation in terms of where do I want to go and how far is it. There's two sets of numbers along the outer edge. The outside number represents mils, while the inner set represents degrees. For the purposes of this video, we're not worrying about stuff like rads and mils for the standard infantryman. We talk about those more with topics such as IDF and other forms of artillery. The degrees will be used to ascertain both bearing and azimuth. In its simplest form, your bearing is the direction you're facing, whereas your azimuth is your path of travel. More on that shortly. Inside the protractor, you'll notice a triangular cutout with an XY grid reference format. While the primary function is to plot grid coordinates with an accuracy of 1 square meter with a 10-digit grid, we can utilize it to gauge distance as well. You'll notice if you zoom out enough, this grid fits perfectly inside of a standard 1 square kilometer grid square. With other maps and protractors, this is the easiest method to determine map scale, indicating this is a standard 1 to 25,000 scale map. So each numerical increment represents a flat distance of 100 meters, with each tick mark representing 10 meters. And if you've ever had to plot points on a map before, you know good and goddamn well getting that 10-digit grid down to the 1 square meter is just precision guesswork in terms of figuring out which incremental 10-meter mark you're putting it closer to. But for your standard infantrymen, if need be, you can use an 8-digit grid coordinate for a 10 square meter surface area to convey most fine precision areas. The compass, on the other hand, is a much simpler tool. There's two key features we're focusing on today. This is the rotating base plate as well as the lensatic wire. With the magnetic base plate, you can orientate yourself with both the indicator as well as the lensatic wire showing your path of travel. This technique is called dead reckoning. The basic idea behind this is once you're orientated in your preferred bearing, whatever your lensatic wire intersects with is your direct point of travel for longer distances, allowing you to confidently traverse longer areas, reducing time taken to constantly have to readjust. And finally, the fourth piece of the puzzle, the pen. It's a fucking pen. I don't think it needs much more introduction than that. Now, let's put all this together and see how it all works in conjunction in order to get you from point A to point B. Once you've discovered your location on the map, orient your protractor as such to put the center hole intersection to cardinal reference lines on your position. With your handy dandy doodle stick, draw a line from the center point of your protractor to your intended destination. It's important to know, if your destination falls within the borders of the protractor, carry on the line past your point while intersecting it as to extend past the protractor in order to get an accurate azimuth. Now find the intersecting points in between where your pen and degree reference points connect to determine your azimuth. Now in order to gauge distance, we're going to rotate the protractor in place. Do so until one of our cardinal reference lines is overlapping our azimuth line on the map. Now pick up your protractor and utilize either one of the XY grid references that we talked about earlier and line it up along your azimuth. With each number being in 100 meter increments, if it exceeds past 10, you know it's past 1 kilometer. So remember where it was, pick up your protractor again, readjust, and continue your measurement. Now that we've procured all the information necessary from the map, let's apply that information to the compass, and let's get a move on. And now with our azimuth in tow, we can orient ourselves with our compass utilizing a dead reckoning technique explained earlier. And with that, you're on your way to kicking ass and taking names. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this guide on basic tools of land navigation. If you find better overall success utilizing the key points discussed in this video, be sure to plot a course back here and leave a like and subscribe. My overall goal is to earn your patronage, not put half-ass information together and pretend to call myself a tactician. And if any of you high speeds are interested in learning practical land navigation for actual outside use, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to make a video teaching about things that aren't exactly in Arma, such as 3 different kinds of north, magnetic declination, grid plotting, and many more advanced things we'll be covering, some of which will also be covered in later Arma videos. Anyway, that's all I really got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for taking time to watch this video. I really hope you guys learned something new and are able to find more success moving forward. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one.